This is a major development in the timeline deaths of actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy. Officials initially believed she may have passed away as early as February 11th, but we now know she was alive on the 12th.
FBI investigators launched an inquiry after maintenance workers found Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, dead in their home on February 26, 2025. The bodies of the 95-year-old legendary actor and his 65-year-old wife had been there for quite a while, according to authorities. The original examination showed no clear signs of foul play, but investigators considered the circumstances suspicious enough to conduct a thorough investigation. What exactly did the FBI find? In this video, we'll find out the entire truth in a different light. Stick with me, because this one is big. Gene Hackman's final years. Gene Hackman never wanted the Hollywood circus to define his entire life. After giving the world decades of unforgettable performances, he walked away, not just from acting, but from the whole industry. No long farewell speeches, no emotional goodbyes on talk shows, just a quiet exit. And where did he go? Santa Fe, New Mexico. Not exactly the kind of place where paparazzi camp out, right? That was the point. He and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, settled into a life that looked nothing like the glitz and chaos of Hollywood. It was peaceful, slow, and far away from prying eyes. But as time went on, that desire for privacy became even more intense. The COVID-19 pandemic only made Hackman and his wife even more protective of their solitude. If they were private before, now they were practically invisible. Betsy, always looking out for him, made sure to take every precaution. Whenever they stepped outside, she wore a mask, not just for herself, but to make sure he stayed safe. The thing is, they rarely stepped outside at all. Their home, nestled in a quiet, gated community, became their entire world. Neighbors barely caught a glimpse of them. Take James Everett, a man who lived right next door for 5 whole years. 5 years, and not once did he bump into them. No grocery store run-ins, no quick hellos while taking out the trash. Nothing. It wasn't that they were rude, they just valued their privacy more than anything else. Social events? Completely off the table. They weren't the type to attend neighborhood barbecues or local charity galas. They kept to themselves, and they liked it that way. Gene Hackman has spent decades keeping his personal life extremely private. But now, the FBI has just revealed shocking new evidence about him that no one saw coming. What could it be? A hidden chapter in his past? A long-buried secret that's only now coming to light? Sit tight, because you won't believe what we uncovered about Gene Hackman. For Hackman, aging wasn't just about the physical changes, it was about seeing himself differently. Imagine watching old films and barely recognizing the younger version of yourself on the screen. That kind of thing messes with your head. Stephen Marshall, a retired FBI agent who worked with them in a community outreach program, said Hackman wasn't a fan of looking back at his old movies. Not because he hated his work, but because he struggled with seeing how much time had changed him. And let's be real, aging isn't easy for anyone. But when the whole world remembers you as a rugged leading man, it has to be even tougher. Even in his 80s, though, Hackman didn't just sit around feeling sorry for himself. The man stayed active. He wasn't about to let time completely take over. His routine? It was impressive, honestly. 3 times a week he did Pilates. Not exactly what you'd expect from a tough guy who used to play no-nonsense characters, but hey, it kept him strong. He rode his bike along the Albuquerque River Trail whenever he could, something that probably reminded him of his Marine days when fitness was non-negotiable. Puzzles kept his mind sharp, and yoga helped him stay flexible. Even when in-person classes weren't an option, he joined Zoom sessions. He might have been reclusive, but he wasn't about to just waste away. The last time people saw him in public was on March 28, 2024, at Papado's Seafood Kitchen in Albuquerque. By then, he was 94 years old. He needed a walking stick, and his wife was right there beside him, helping him move. That moment hit differently for people who had grown up watching him as a strong, commanding presence on screen. Before that, his last big public moment had been all the way back in 2003 at the Golden Globes. That was over 20 years ago. And even then, he was there to accept the Cecil B. DeMille Award, one final nod from Hollywood before he faded into the background. People who knew him noticed the changes. The Linehan family, who had worked with him on his books, saw how much more withdrawn he had become. He wasn't out riding his bike anymore, and it wasn't just because of old age. It was a conscious choice. He was done being out in the world. Betsy did what she could to keep him engaged. introducing him to online platforms so he could stay somewhat connected. But for the most part, Hackman was homebound, and that was exactly how he wanted it. Some might think it's sad, an old Hollywood legend retreating into the shadows, but for Hackman, it wasn't sad at all. It was intentional. He had given the world enough, and now he just wanted peace. Local resident Harvey Chalker summed it up perfectly. He wanted to be quiet, he didn't want to be bothered, and that was that. No drama, no fuss, just a man who had lived a full life, making the most of his final years exactly the way he wanted to. Why the estate wants records sealed. Julia Peters, representing Gene Hackman's estate, is pulling out all the legal stops to make sure some incredibly sensitive materials about the investigation into the couple's deaths never see the light of day. And honestly, who can blame her? Imagine being in her shoes, knowing that somewhere out there, a media circus is just waiting to sink its teeth into gruesome photos and deeply personal reports. The urgency of this whole thing is off the charts, with Peters racing to the Santa Fe District Court, determined to block the release of what she describes as deeply personal and highly disturbing materials. But here's the issue. The more the estate tries to keep things under wraps, the more public curiosity grows. You know how people get when they're told they can't see something? Suddenly, it becomes the only thing they want to see. It's human nature. At the heart of this battle, autopsy photos, police body cam footage, medical records, and other investigation documents that, if leaked, would make the couple's tragic passing even more of a spectacle than it already is. The estate isn't just worried about if the materials will leak. They're worried about when and how bad it will be once they do. The media loves a juicy story, and let's be real, tabloids would have a field day with something like this. The estate's biggest nightmare? Seeing these deeply personal images plastered across headlines and social media feeds, dissected by internet sleuths and casual gawkers alike. And the argument she's making? It's not just about dignity or privacy. It's about basic human decency. She points to the fact that the couple spent decades fiercely guarding their personal lives. Unlike many Hollywood icons who court attention, Gene Hackman and his wife went out of their way to stay out of the spotlight. They didn't do tell-all interviews. They didn't have social media accounts flaunting their lifestyle. They were incredibly private people. If they spent their whole lives making sure their personal business stayed personal, why should that change in death? Shouldn't their wishes still be respected? That's the whole foundation of the estate's legal argument. Peters and her team are leaning hard on the 14th Amendment, the same constitutional principle that has protected other families from having their loved ones' most vulnerable moments exploited. They even cite past cases, like the legal battle over Kurt Cobain's death photos. In that case, the courts ruled that some things should simply not be made public. The estate is hoping that precedent will work in their favor, making it clear that the right to grieve in peace should outweigh public curiosity. But here's where things get tricky, because public curiosity isn't the only thing at play here. Some legal experts, like Amanda Lavin from the New Mexico Foundation for Open Government, argue that while the state does block access to extremely graphic images of deceased individuals, most records surrounding death investigations are still public. The idea is that transparency keeps law enforcement accountable. If everything is sealed, people start to wonder, what's being hidden? Is there something more to the story? That's the kind of skepticism that can spiral into wild conspiracy theories. And let's be honest, the internet loves a good conspiracy. And then there's another layer to this whole mess: public health concerns. Reports have suggested that a hantavirus infection might have played a role in their deaths. If that's true, some experts argue that there could be a legitimate reason to release some details, not for the sake of morbid curiosity, but to inform and protect the public. It's one of those situations where the legal and ethical boundaries get incredibly murky. At what point does public interest outweigh the family's right to privacy? And who gets to decide where that line is drawn? Approach by trying to block the release before any formal records requests have even been made. Normally, these kinds of legal battles happen after someone tries to access the materials. But the estate isn't waiting around for that. They're being proactive, trying to shut things down before the situation even has a chance to spiral out of control. It's a bold move, but one that makes it clear just how seriously they're taking this fight. If the estate wins, it could mean stricter privacy protections for high-profile individuals, even after death. But if the court rules against them, It could open the floodgates for even more legal battles in the future. Gene Hackman walked away from Hollywood years ago, living a quiet life far from the chaos of fame. But just when everyone thought they'd never hear his name in the headlines again, the FBI released new evidence about him that's leaving everyone speechless. What could they possibly have uncovered after all these years? Stick around because you're going to want to hear this until the very end. Celebrity deaths in Santa Fe. Santa Fe has always been that quiet, tucked-away gem where celebrities go when they just want to breathe, really breathe, without the weight of flashing cameras and relentless headlines. There's something almost poetic about the place. And maybe that's why, for over 100 years, this little city nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains has been a magnet for high-profile people who just want to disappear from the public eye for a while, or maybe forever. It's not like LA, where you can't even grab a coffee without someone recognizing you, or New York, where anonymity is an illusion. Santa Fe offers something different. It doesn't just give celebrities space, it offers them the chance to be ordinary. And honestly, isn't that what most of them want at the end of the day? Just to live without feeling like they're on stage 24/7? Take Gene Hackman, for instance. The man was a Hollywood legend, yet he chose to settle down in Santa Fe, sharing the city with other famous names who craved the same peace like Sam Shepard, Shirley MacLaine, Ali MacGraw, and even George R.R. Martin, the mastermind behind Game of Thrones. None of them were looking for glitz and glamour. They were after something real, a simple life, a life where they could go grocery shopping without whispers trailing behind them, or sit in a cafe without someone secretly snapping a picture. Artist Kristen Bortles put it best when she said, "You recognize that celebrities who come here are coming here for the same reason. They just want to live and be normal people." And the beautiful thing about Santa Fe, the locals actually respect that. They don't chase celebrities down the street for autographs or bombard them with questions. Instead, they let them be, because at the end of the day, they're just neighbors. But of course, no matter how much a place prides itself on privacy and respect, when tragedy strikes, it inevitably draws attention. That's exactly what happened with the Hackmans. And in situations like this, it's not just the community that feels the weight of loss. It's the local authorities who suddenly find themselves in the international spotlight. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office isn't new to handling high-profile cases. If anything, they've had their fair share of intense moments, especially after the Alec Baldwin Rust shooting incident in 2021. When dealing with something as delicate as a celebrity death, law enforcement has to walk a fine line between balancing transparency with respect, answering the media's endless questions while making sure the investigation isn't compromised. Denise Womack-Avila, the sheriff's spokesperson, knows this all too well. Her job isn't just about relaying facts. It's about maintaining trust, both with the public and the people directly affected. It's a tough job, but Santa Fe's authorities have learned to handle these cases with an almost unshakable professionalism. And then there's the community response, the way Santa Fe comes together in moments like these. When the Hackmans passed, it wasn't just a Hollywood tragedy. It was a loss that hit home for the people who had shared their city with them. Mayor Alan Weber put it best. These are two people who have huge talent, gifts, global reputations. Yet here in Santa Fe, they're just down-to-earth people, part of the community. That's the thing. No matter how famous someone is, in Santa Fe, they're still just a person. The Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, where Hackman had been a trustee for years, mourned his loss deeply. It wasn't about his fame. It was about the mark he left on the cultural heart of the city. And then there were people like Gabriel Garcia, whose family had been selling jewelry in Santa Fe Plaza for over 60 years. He summed it up perfectly. "The thing I've learned about Santa Fe is that you never know who you're talking to. You never know who you're going to meet or who's around the corner. It's this unspoken understanding, this quiet acceptance, that makes the city feel like a sanctuary." Gene Hackman has always kept his life out of the public eye. No scandals, no controversies, just talent and an unshakable reputation. But now, the FBI has just released shocking new evidence about him, and no one knows what to make of it. What could they have found? But before you make up your mind, wait until you hear the final twist, because that's the part that will leave you absolutely stunned. Children speak out about investigation. Santa Fe has this almost magical way of making the loudest, most famous people in the world feel small again in the best way possible. It's not just a city, it's a retreat, a deep breath, a reset button for people who have spent their lives in the spotlight. You ever wonder where celebrities go when they don't want to be celebrities anymore? When the flashing lights, the constant whispers, the pressure of perfection, and the ever-present cameras get to be too much? They don't run to Miami or New York. They don't hide away in some exclusive Malibu estate where the paparazzi are still lurking in the bushes. They come to Santa Fe, and why wouldn't they? The air alone feels like a detox, crisp, clean, laced with the scent of piñon and juniper. A far cry from the smog and noise of Hollywood. There's something healing about it, something grounding. It's the kind of place where even the most famous faces get to blend into the crowd, not because people don't recognize them, but because no one makes a big deal out of it. Imagine bumping into Gene Hackman at the local grocery store, or seeing Shirley MacLaine sipping tea at a quiet cafe, totally unbothered, completely at ease. That's Santa Fe. It's where A-listers come to be treated like regular folks, where the only real currency is authenticity. And the locals? They respect that. They don't swarm celebrities with selfie requests or interrupt their meals with starstruck stares. There's an unspoken rule here: let people be. And honestly, isn't that the one thing every celebrity secretly craves? To just be normal for a little while? Take Gene Hackman, for example. He's Hollywood royalty. The French Connection, Unforgiven, the Royal Tenenbaums. Yet he chose to spend his later years not in the glamour of Beverly Hills, but in the quiet hum of Santa Fe. He wasn't alone either. Sam Shepard, Ali MacGraw, George R.R. Martin, they all found their way to this little city tucked away in the foothills of the Rockies, drawn by something bigger than fame. It wasn't about hiding, it was about finally living. Kristen Bortles, a local artist, put it best: "You recognize that celebrities who come here are coming here for the same reason. They just want to live and be normal people." And isn't that kind of beautiful? A place where the famous get to be faceless, where they can wander through art galleries and dusty bookstores without feeling like an exhibit themselves. But even in a city that prides itself on privacy, when tragedy strikes, it's impossible to ignore. And Santa Fe has seen its fair share of high-profile heartbreak. The Hackman's passing was one of those moments, one of those everybody stops and takes a breath moments. Because when someone who's lived so long in the heart of a community is suddenly gone, it's not just news, it's personal. And for a town that's used to keeping things quiet, suddenly being thrust into the international spotlight isn't easy. Just ask the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. They've handled enough major incidents, especially after the Alec Baldwin Rust shooting, to know that when a celebrity is involved, the world is watching. The pressure? Unbelievable. The balance? Almost impossible. They have to be transparent without being intrusive, informative without being exploitative. It's a tightrope act, and no one knows that better than Denise Womack-Avila, the sheriff's spokesperson. Her job is about more than just relaying facts. It's about protecting the dignity of those involved while still keeping the public informed. And that's no small task, especially in a place like Santa Fe, where the whole town feels like one big extended family. And that's the thing about Santa Fe. It's not just a place where celebrities hide out. It's a place where they truly belong. So when someone like Gene Hackman or Shirley MacLaine passes, it doesn't feel like a distant Hollywood headline. It feels like losing a neighbor, a friend. Mayor Alan Weber captured it perfectly. These are two people who have huge talent, gifts, global reputations, yet here in Santa Fe, they're just down-to-earth people, part of the community. It's not about their IMDb credits or their awards. It's about the mark they left on the people around them. And that's the kind of thing that doesn't fade away. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.